Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a seat, take a deep breath, and really listen to what I'm about to say. Today, we're talking about something that some people misunderstand, and that is the power, the strength, and the freedom of a woman who chooses to live alone without boyfriends. Now, I know some of you might be shaking your heads thinking, Steve, that's lonely. But let me tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. There is a level of independence, a level of self-respect, and a level of clarity that comes from a woman who learns to walk alone. She's not lonely, she's free. She's not desperate, she's deliberate. And she's not incomplete, she's whole. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about independence, and I want you to listen carefully because too many people don't understand this. Independence is not just a word. Independence is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a power that can't be taken away from you. Now, when I talk about a woman living alone without boyfriends, the first thing I see is a woman who has taken her life into her own hands. She is not waiting for someone to rescue her, to save her, or to complete her. She's not looking for validation from anybody else because she has already validated herself. And that, my friends, is the real secret to strength. Now, I want you to imagine something for a second. A woman walks into a room and she doesn't need a man to define her. She doesn't need a man to put a ring on her finger to feel valuable. She doesn't need a man to tell her she's beautiful, smart, or powerful. She's already beautiful, smart, and powerful all by herself. That's the level of independence I'm talking about. It's not about shutting people out. It's about understanding that your happiness is yours to create. You get to decide how your life looks, what your priorities are, and how you spend your time and energy. And let me tell you, ladies, that kind of freedom is priceless. Independence is not just about paying your own bills or cooking your own meals. Yes, those are part of it, but independence goes deeper than that. It's about making decisions that affect your life without hesitation, without fear, without waiting for someone else's approval. It's about knowing what you want and going after it with everything you've got. It's about waking up in the morning and saying, this is my life, I'm in charge, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. Let me tell you, when a woman lives like this, she doesn't just survive, she thrives. There's a certain confidence that comes from knowing that you can stand on your own. I've seen it time and time again. A woman who doesn't rely on a boyfriend for emotional support, financial support, or even just someone to be there with her becomes unstoppable. She walks into a room and people feel her energy. They know she's not dependent on anyone, and that's magnetic. That's the kind of power that draws the right people to her. Not the wrong ones, not the ones looking for someone to take care of them, but the ones who respect her, who admire her, and who are willing to meet her as an equal. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate form of independence. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Steve, isn't that lonely? Isn't that hard? And yes, living alone, making your own decisions, and carrying your own life can be challenging. But here's the thing. When you're independent, you learn to deal with challenges in a way that builds your character. You learn resilience. You learn self-reliance. You learn how to trust yourself. And trust me, when you have that kind of inner strength, loneliness doesn't scare you because you realize that being alone does not mean being lonely. Being alone means you have the time, the space, and the freedom to grow into the best version of yourself. I want every woman listening to me right now to really hear this. Independence is attractive. I don't care what anybody else says. A woman who knows how to stand on her own, who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't chase after validation, who controls her own life, she's magnetic. Men are drawn to her because she's not desperate. People are drawn to her because she's confident. And here's the real kicker. When a woman is independent, she doesn't settle. She doesn't take someone who doesn't respect her time, her energy, or her dreams. She knows her worth, and she refuses to compromise. See it for anyone. That, my friends, is real power. And it's not just about attracting the right people. It's about shaping your life on your own terms. An independent woman makes her own rules. She sets her own goals. She follows her own passions. And she does all of this without feeling guilty for not fitting into someone else's expectations. That is a freedom that most people never experience. It's the freedom to say yes to what you love, no to what you don't, and to live each day as if it's a gift because it is. Let me tell you one more thing about independence. It's not selfish. Some people think that a woman living alone, taking care of herself, and prioritizing her own life is being selfish. Wrong. That is self-love. That is respect. That is the foundation for healthy relationships in the future. Because here's the truth. If you can't take care of yourself, if you don't respect your own life, how can you expect anyone else to? Independence teaches a woman to love herself first. She does that. Every relationship she has from that point forward is stronger, healthier, and more meaningful. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to see it clearly. A woman who lives alone without boyfriends is not waiting for life to happen. She is making life happen. She is creating her own happiness. She is building her own empire. She is strong, she is fearless, and she is unstoppable. And that, my friends, is the beauty of independence. It's not just surviving on your own. It's thriving on your own, walking through life with your head held high and knowing that you don't need anyone to complete you because you are already complete. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really listen to this because too many people don't understand what I'm about to say. Clarity and self-awareness are the cornerstones of a woman living alone without boyfriends. You see, a lot of people think that being single is just about not having someone in your life. But I'm here to tell you it's much more than that. It's about understanding yourself so clearly that nobody and nothing can distract you from your purpose. It's about knowing who you are, what you deserve, and what you will not settle for. And let me tell you, that kind of clarity, it changes everything. Think about it for a second. How many times have you seen someone get into a relationship and lose themselves? They start doing things they don't like, saying things they don't believe, and following someone else's rules just to keep a man happy. That's not love. That's losing yourself. But a woman who lives alone has the luxury, the gift, and the discipline to figure out exactly who she is before she ever lets someone else in. She spends time reflecting, learning, and understanding what makes her happy. She knows her strengths, she knows her weaknesses, and she's not afraid to work on both. And that, my friends, is powerful. Ladies, I want you to hear me on this. Clarity doesn't come overnight. It comes from experience. It comes from making mistakes, from taking chances, from learning what works and what doesn't. It comes from sitting quietly in your own space, looking at your life, and asking yourself the tough questions. What do I want? What do I need? What am I willing to compromise and what am I not? When a woman takes the time to answer these questions, she starts living with intention. She stops drifting. She stops saying yes to things that don't serve her. And suddenly, her life becomes a series of deliberate choices, not random accidents. That's self-awareness at work. Now let me tell you about the kind of power that comes from knowing yourself. When a woman is clear about who she is, she starts attracting the right people. Not everyone will like her clarity. Some people will feel intimidated by it. Some people will try to change her or convince her to lower her standards. But the right people, those who truly respect her, will be drawn to her like moths to a flame. Why? Because clarity radiates confidence. Clarity says, I know my worth, I know my path. I am not settling for anything less than what I deserve. And men, women, and even opportunities can sense that. Self-awareness also teaches a woman patience. Patience for herself, patience for others, and patience for the right timing. See, when you know what you want, you're less likely to rush into things. You're less likely to settle for someone just because society says you should be in a relationship. You're willing to wait for the man, the situation, and the life that aligns with your values and your goals. And let me tell you, patience is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that good things come to those who don't settle, who don't compromise their integrity, and who stay true to themselves. Another thing self-awareness does is it builds emotional intelligence. When a woman spends time understanding her own emotions, her triggers, and her patterns, she becomes capable of handling relationships in a mature. When the right time comes, she doesn't react impulsively. She doesn't let fear or insecurity guide her choices. She can look at a man, a situation, or a challenge and respond with clarity, calm, and confidence. And let me tell you, that's not something you can fake. That's earned. That's built over time when you live alone, reflect, and learn who you really are. Clarity also protects a woman from toxic relationships. When you know what you want, when you know your standards, and when you understand your deal breakers, it becomes almost impossible for someone to take advantage of you. She doesn't fall for empty promises. She doesn't tolerate disrespect. She doesn't compromise her peace for anyone. And that's why I say living alone is not a punishment. It's a preparation. It's a time to sharpen your mind, strengthen your heart, and fortify your boundaries. By the time the right person shows up, she's already a fortress of self-respect and wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the truth. Clarity and self-awareness give a woman control over her life. She stops letting society, friends, family, or even past relationships dictate her decisions. She starts making choices that serve her long-term happiness and growth. She starts living with purpose instead of living on autopilot. And that, my friends, is the kind of woman who commands respect. She doesn't need to explain herself to anyone. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't need a boyfriend to define her life because she's already defined it herself. And let me tell you, this kind of clarity is contagious. People around her, friends, family, co-workers, start noticing it. They start respecting her boundaries, admiring her independence, and learning from her example. And when she eventually opens her heart to love, it's not desperation that guides her, it's intention. She knows exactly who she is and exactly what she wants. And that, my friends, is when real, meaningful, and lasting love enters the picture. Not the kind that fills a void, but the kind that complements her already complete life. So I want every woman listening to me right now to understand this. Living alone without boyfriends is not just about being single. It's about gaining clarity. It's about self-awareness. It's about understanding your worth, your dreams, and your boundaries. And it's about preparing yourself for a life and a love that matches your greatness. Because a woman who knows herself, respects herself, and values herself is unstoppable. She doesn't just exist, she thrives. And that, my friends, is the power of clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real about strength and resilience. Because this is where a woman living alone without boyfriends really shows what she's made of. Strength is not loud. Strength is not dramatic. Strength is quiet. It's waking up every day and handling your life, even when nobody is clapping for you. Resilience is getting knocked down by life, disappointment, loneliness, pressure, and still finding the courage to stand back up and keep moving forward. And when a woman lives alone, she doesn't just learn strength, she becomes it. You see, when there's no boyfriend to lean on, no one to call at midnight to fix things, no one to blame when things go wrong, a woman discovers something powerful about herself. She realizes, I can handle this. Whether it's a bad day at work, a financial struggle, or emotional pain, she learns to face it head on. She cries if she needs to cry. She prays if she needs to pray. And then she wipes her tears and keeps going. That's resilience. That's the kind of strength nobody can take away from her. A lot of people think strong women are born that way. That's not true. Strong women are built, they are built through nights of self-doubt, moments of fear, and times when quitting would have been easier. Living alone forces a woman to confront herself. There's no distraction, no hiding behind a relationship, no pretending ever. I think it's okay when it's not. She has to look at her life and say, this is mine and I'm responsible for it. And let me tell you, when a woman accepts that responsibility, she becomes unstoppable. Strength also comes from learning how to be emotionally independent. When you don't have a boyfriend to constantly reassure you, validate you, or distract you from your feelings, you learn how to regulate your own emotions. You learn how to calm yourself down, how to encourage yourself, and how to believe in yourself even when no one else does. That kind of emotional strength is rare. And when a woman has it, she doesn't fall apart over small things. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't chase people who don't value her. She stands firm in who she is. Resilience teaches a woman how to handle rejection and disappointment without losing her dignity. Not every plan works out. Not every opportunity comes through. Not every person stays. But a resilient woman doesn't let setbacks define her. She understands that life is a series of lessons, not punishments. She learns from her failures, grows from her pain, and uses her experiences as fuel to become better. And that's what separates a strong woman from a broken one. She doesn't let her struggles turn her bitter. Living alone also builds practical strength. A woman learns how to solve problems instead of waiting for someone else to fix them. She learns how to manage her time, her finances, her home, and her responsibilities. She becomes capable. She becomes confident. And confidence born from capability is powerful. When a woman knows she can take care of herself, she doesn't fear being alone. She doesn't cling to unhealthy relationships. She chooses peace over chaos, growth over comfort, and self-respect over temporary affection. Let me tell you something important. A woman who has learned strength through solitude is very hard to manipulate. You can't scare her with silence. You can't control her with threats of leaving. You can't impress her with empty promises. Why? Because she's already survived on her own. She already knows she'll be okay no matter what. And that kind of resilience changes how she moves through the world. She walks differently. She speaks differently. She carries herself with authority. And gentlemen, let me say this clearly. A resilient woman is not a difficult woman. She's a disciplined woman. She's not cold. She's careful. She's not guarded without reason. She's learned from experience. And when she finally lets someone into her life, it's not because she needs them. It's because she wants them. That's a whole different level of love. That's a woman who chooses you, not a woman who depends on you. Strength and resilience also give a woman the courage to stand alone when necessary. She doesn't follow the crowd. She doesn't make decisions based on pressure from society, family, or friends. She does what feels right for her, even if it means walking a path others don't understand. And let me tell you, walking alone takes courage. It takes strength to say, I'm okay being by myself until the right thing comes along. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Every challenge a woman faces while living alone adds another layer to her strength. Every obstacle she overcomes becomes proof that she can handle whatever comes next. She stops fearing the unknown because she's already faced uncertainty and survived it. She trusts herself. And when a woman trusts herself, she becomes fearless. Not reckless, not careless, but fearless in knowing that no matter what happens, she has her own back. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman who lives alone without boyfriends is not fragile. She is forged. She is shaped by life, strengthened by struggle, and refined by resilience. She doesn't crumble under pressure. She rises. She doesn't break when things get hard. She bends and adapts. And that kind of strength is not loud, but it is undeniable. It shows up in how she carries herself, how she handles adversity, and how she refuses to settle for less than she deserves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about joy, real joy, not the kind that depends on someone texting you back, calling you, or choosing you. I'm talking about the kind of joy that comes from within, the kind that doesn't disappear when a relationship ends or plans fall apart. A woman who lives alone without boyfriends learns how to find happiness inside herself, and that is one of the greatest powers she will ever have. Because when your joy doesn't depend on another person, nobody can control it, take it away, or use it against you. Too many people believe happiness begins when a relationship begins. They think joy comes with companionship, romance, and attention. But a woman living alone discovers something different. She learns that joy comes from peace, from waking up in a space that feels safe, calm, and her own, from having control over her time, her energy, and her choices. She learns that happiness doesn't need permission. It doesn't need approval. It simply needs SEL, acceptance. This kind of woman learns how to enjoy her own company. And let me tell you, that is a rare skill. She can sit in silence without feeling empty. She can laugh by herself, treat herself, and celebrate her own wins without needing someone else to witness them. That doesn't mean she doesn't value love or connection. It means she's not starving for it. She's fulfilled already. And when joy comes from within, relationships become an addition, not a necessity. Fulfillment shows up when a woman starts living intentionally. She pursues her passions. She invests in her dreams. She builds a life that excites her, whether it's her career, her creativity, her spirituality, or her personal growth. She starts doing things because they bring her purpose, not because they impress someone else. And that purpose fills her in a way no relationship ever could. She stops waiting for life to start and realizes life has been happening all along. Living alone also teaches a woman the beauty of peace. There's no emotional chaos, no guessing games, no walking on eggshells. Her home becomes her sanctuary. Her mind becomes clearer. Her heart becomes lighter. And peace, ladies and gentlemen, is addictive. Once a woman tastes peace, She becomes very selective about who she allows into her life. Not everyone deserves access to her joy. Not everyone deserves a seat at her table. And that discernment is part of her thriving. Thriving is not about perfection, it's about alignment. When a woman lives alone and learns what makes her happy, she begins to align her life with her values. She eats better, thinks better, chooses better. She sets routines that support her well-being. She surrounds herself with people who uplift her. She lets go of what drains her. And slowly, her life begins to feel full, not busy, not loud, but full. A joyful woman is a powerful woman, not because she's smiling all the time, but because she's grounded. She doesn't chase excitement to escape emptiness. She doesn't confuse attention with affection. She understands the difference between being wanted and being valued. And because of that, she doesn't settle for temporary happiness that comes with long-term pain. She chooses fulfillment over fantasy. Living alone gives her the freedom to define success on her own terms. She's not measuring her life against timelines, traditions, or expectations that don't fit her. She understands that joy looks different for everyone. For her, it might mean travel, growth, quiet mornings, strong friendships, or simply feeling at peace with herself. And once she accepts that, she stops comparing her journey to anyone else's. Comparison fades when contentment grows. There is also a deep gratitude that develops in a fulfilled woman. She becomes thankful for the small things, for progress, not perfection, for peace, not drama, for growth, not approval. Gratitude changes how she sees life. Instead of focusing on what's missing, she appreciates what's present. And that shift in mindset attracts more good into her life, not because she's chasing it, but because she's open to receiving it. A woman who is joyful and fulfilled doesn't fear the future. She trusts it. She knows that whatever comes next will meet her where she is, not where she used to be. She's not desperate for love, but she's open to it. She's not closed off, but she's protected. And when love finally shows up, it finds a woman who is already whole, already happy, already thriving. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman who lives alone without boyfriends is not missing out on life. She is living it deeply, fully, and authentically. She is learning to enjoy the journey, not rush the destination. She is creating a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. And that kind of joy, that kind of fulfillment, that kind of thriving, it's not loud, but it is powerful.